So here's a story that I haven't really told before. But the way that I got this truck, it's not the typical story that someone has when they buy a piece of equipment. In fact, the only reason that I could buy this truck, because the market was so tight at the time, was the man that I bought it from had just won $70 million. Yeah, I bought this truck from a multimillionaire who had literally gotten that way overnight. Today, I want to tell you that whole story, from finding the listing to the flight over there and to driving it home. And yes, I still have footage from that day. So let's roll it. So it was early 2022 and we were just kind of coming out of that whole thing that happened to the entire world. And there was all the talk of supply chains were tight and you couldn't really get anything and nothing was shipping and blah, blah, blah. The whole economy just kind of hit this bottleneck and I saw an opportunity. So I was looking around on like Facebook Marketplace and classified ads, the truck papers, and trucks were just going up in price. Guys were asking $250K for, a 2017 Pete with 900,000 kilometers on it. And guess what? People were spending the money to buy that type of equipment. I wasn't really into that. And then I found this one deal for this Kenworth, this T880. It was a reasonable price. It was probably about market value. Like he could have been asking more. And I said, well, let me come have a look. Now, I live in Red Deer in Alberta, and he was in Saskatchewan, or was it Regina? Anyway, and the truck was parked there, and I was actually doing work out in Saskatchewan in those days, running from Kindersley to Viewfield, Stoughton area, down basically the central west of Saskatchewan down to the southeast corner. And so the truck was right in the middle of my route, so I was able to pop in and have a look. And I remember I asked this guy, because he had 3 trucks for sale, 3 grain trailers for sale, and he was about, maybe a few years older than me, kind of young to be retiring. And I said, so what's the reason you're selling? He's like, I just came into a bit of money. And I was like, oh, well, good for you. And I was trying to be sensitive, right? Because it might have been an inheritance. Maybe he lost a parent. You never know, right? So, and then I finally said, if you don't mind me asking, what do you mean you came into a bit of money? He's like, oh, I won the lottery. I was like, oh, wow, that's cool, man. Like $1 million, like $2 million. He's like, no, I won the Lotto Max, $70 million. And, obviously I'm taken aback and I'm looking at this guy like he's foolish. You know what? I remember looking in his eyes to see if he was telling the truth. And yeah, there was something in there that it's like a weight had been lifted off his shoulders, let's say. And yeah, I asked him too. I was like, how does the money all come to you? And do they pay you like $1 million a year for 70 years? He's like, no, one check. And imagine that, like getting a check that hits your checking account, 70 million bucks, And so I'm like, well, maybe you can give me a bit of a deal on the price then, because hey, you got a pile of money coming, and he's the Saskatchewan farmer type. Like if you guys know the prairie type of people up here in Canada, in the prairie provinces, it's fiscally conservative and get your money's worth where you can, and so it was a fair price. He's like, no, I'm just getting what I owe out of it, and then I'm moving on. I was like, okay, well, fair enough. And again, the market was tight, so what kind of position was I in to bargain? So the next day, after meeting him and looking at his truck, of course, actually might have been even that day, I get on Google and I look up this $70 million Lotto Max winner, blah, blah, blah. And sure enough, it pops up. There's the guy, on CBC, on public television, holding a big fat check, says 70 million bucks on it. So I went home and I had a think, and I contacted the company that I was working for that I wanted to lease onto, and I got the go-ahead, and I booked a last-minute flight, grabbed my bag, flew out to Regina. And I've got all this excitement and anxiety at the same time. Like, I'm about to buy the biggest piece of equipment of my life from a guy who never has to work again. And sure enough, when I get there, the truck is exactly as advertised, sitting clean, shining in the prairie sun. Then there's Dale, with a big smile on his face, $70 million richer. Surreal. So, we did up the paperwork and shook hands, and he handed me the keys. No pressure, no hard sell. Just a guy who'd won the jackpot, wanting to see the truck go to good hands. And then came the long drive back to Alberta. Wide open prairie, blue sky. The first hours behind the wheel of what would become my workhorse for the next 3.5 years. Now, what was my destination? Well, of course, first place I had to go was to show my niece and nephew, let them have a crawl around inside. It definitely got their approval. And of course, I had to add a little bit of jewelry. It was mainly for the insurance discount, among other things. I also had to rig up a hydraulic cooler because this truck was going to run pumps. You've been watching Truckster, where the rubber meets the world. Hit that subscribe button. We got lots more coming.